Good afternoon to you, and thank you for finding time to be with us today. It is 3 p.m. East African time. The show is Diaspora Dispatches, where I get to bring you the latest news from across the continent of Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and it is a pleasure to have you on board. We'll start our bulletin from Cameroon. And Cameroonian soldiers have freed a kidnapped senator of the ruling party, plus several other hostages, in an operation in the country's English-speaking northwest region, the army has confirmed. Senator Elizabeth Regina Mundi was kidnapped along with her driver last month in Bamenda. The separatist group Amazonian Defense Forces said it carried out the abduction. The rebel group is one of the several fighting for independence in the two main Anglophone regions, the Northwest and Southwest. In a statement, Army spokesperson Cyril Atonfak Guemo said a dozen separatist fighters were killed, many left injured while others fled during the Monday night raid. And then we move on to Sudan, and the authorities in Sudan have released 125 political prisoners after the country's military leader lifted the state of emergency on Sunday. They were leaders of the resistance committees who opposed the military coup after months of unlawful detention, the private Sudan Tribune website reported, citing a Sudanese lawyers group. The activists were released from prisons in the capital Khartoum, Port Sudan and Rabat in the southeast. Their release came after General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan lifted the state of emergency and he imposed across the country after seizing power in a military coup last October. The resistance committee grassroots groups have been spearheading anti-military protests in the country. The mass street protests calling for the military to quit politics have been going on regularly for more than 7 months since the coup. And we head over to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where rebels in the eastern part of the DRC have retreated from areas they recently captured in clashes with government forces in North Kivu province. The fighting displaced more than 100,000 people in the province, but local media report that many locals are now returning to their homes in Rutshuru and Nyiragongo areas. A spokesperson for the M23 rebels, Major Willy Ngoma, has told the BBC that the rebel group left those areas in order to make peace. The rebels had advanced to about 20 kilometers from the provincial capital, Goma. It is not clear where they retreated to, but the UN-sponsored Radio Okapi reports they went to positions close to border with Rwanda. On Monday, government spokesperson Patrick Muyaya had ruled out the possibility of talks with the rebels, terming them terrorists. But the rebel spokesperson said the designation of M23 as a terrorist group made no difference. The Congolese government in April excluded M23 from negotiations held in Kenya with dozens of rebel groups, accusing the group of staging hostilities just before the talks. The negotiations have not resulted in any decision yet and are scheduled to resume in Goma town. And still staying with his matter of the DRC, Rwandan President Paul Kagame held a conversation with his Democratic Republic of Congo counterpart Felix Tshisekedi, along with the African Union chairperson Macky Sall, amid cross-border tensions. The Kinshasa government accuses Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebels in renewed fighting in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, which the government in Kigali has denied. Thousands of people have fled their homes as the Congolese army battles the rebels in North Kivu province. Mr. Sall, who is also the Senegalese president, encouraged Angolan President João Lourenço to continue mediating on the issue under a regional international conference on the Great Lake region. Mr. Sall had earlier expressed a grave concern at rising tensions between the two countries. He appealed for dialogue to resolve the dispute. Last week, DR Congo suspended flights to Rwanda and summoned Kigali's ambassador over the same matter. And we head over to Nigeria, where we do have some good news over a story that we shared yesterday about the head of the Methodist Church who was abducted. And now the latest is that Samuel Kanu, the head of the Methodist Church in Nigeria, has been freed after being abducted on Sunday, a church official confirmed to the BBC. He was traveling with two other priests on a highway in the southeastern state of Abia when they were abducted, and it is unclear how they were freed, but separatist groups frequently carry out abductions in the region. His release has led to jubilation in Nigeria's Christian community. We go to Ethiopia, where forces from Ethiopia's embattled region of Tigray say fighting has broken out again with neighboring Eritrea. A senior figure in the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, TPLF, Getachew Reda, said the clashes took place last week. He accused Eritrea of trying to escalate tensions. Tigrayan TV, which is affiliated with the Tigrayan military, said Eritreans also shelled the town of Shiraru over the weekend. Eritrea has not responded to the reports, and they have not been independently verified. While on the ground, fighting between the two sides has decreased since a ceasefire in March, tensions have increased on the border between the two. And then we go to Guinea, and the United Nations Human Rights Office has urged the Transitional Authority in Guinea to revoke a ban on public protest. Earlier this month, the country's military rulers issued a statement prohibiting gatherings in public places. Opposition parties and civil society activists had expressed concern about the measures. The UN's human rights spokesperson for Africa, Saif Magango, said the restrictions violated international norms and constituted a setback for democracy. In September last year, Guinea's President Alpha Conde was ousted in a military coup. The leader of the takeover, Mamadi Doumbouya, was sworn in as interim president a month later. We head over to Egypt, where President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met Monday with Polish President Andrzej Duda in Cairo. The North African leader is hosting his counterpart for a 3-day state visit. Topics on the agenda include strengthening economic and scientific cooperation, as well as the next United Nations Summit on Climate scheduled in November in the Egyptian city of Sharm el-Sheikh. Very well, and we end our news whereby Pope Francis is set to make a grueling trip to 2 African countries in July, despite knee problems that have forced him to use a cane and a wheelchair in recent weeks. The Vatican issued a full program on Saturday for the July 2nd to 7th trip to the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan. There has been speculation the Pope's visit to Africa might be postponed, as was the trip to Lebanon scheduled for June. The 85-year-old Pope has been undergoing treatment for knee pain believed to be caused by a torn ligament. Francis will spend 4 days in the DRC, visiting the capital Kinshasa and Goma in the restive eastern region. South Sudan is predominantly Christian, and Francis is making the South Sudan leg together with the Archbishop of Canterbury and the moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland. It will be the first joint visit of its kind by leaders of Roman Catholic, Anglican and Reformed traditions. July marks the 11th anniversary of South Sudan's secession from Sudan. Civil war erupted 2 years later in 2013, causing over 400,000 deaths. The two main sides signed a peace deal in 2018, but hunger and deadly clashes are still common across the world's youngest nation. So that is the latest, indeed, from the continent of Africa. So, of course, this visit by the Pope to especially South Sudan, and now the crisis that is ongoing in the DRC, which I will get into in just a bit. I'd like to give us some background on, for us to understand some of why. And, Rwanda is even being accused of supporting the M23 rebels. And, just a bit, I'll give you that information just in a short while. But this visit for Pope Francis to South Sudan, I think it's timely. It was organized a couple of months ago, but the Pope has not been in his best health. We know he's pretty old, 85 years old, and he has been undergoing some treatment for some knee pain, believed to be caused by a torn ligament, and so he's not even able to walk. Independently. He has to use a stick, and a lot of times when he's moving over some beautiful long distance, then he's moved on a wheelchair. And despite of his very fragile health, he still feels it's very important for him to go to South Sudan. I remember the last visit the leaders of South Sudan had, which was called the Spiritual Retreat, if you can remember, 2019. And they went to the Vatican. The Pope talked to them. The Pope, as a symbol of humility and just, leadership, that perhaps he hoped the leaders of South Sudan will go and replicate in their country. He even kissed their feet. Can you imagine, as old as the Pope is, he did that. He went and kissed this leader's feet. And perhaps it was just to try to plead, to beseech them, if I can even use that word, to go and try to make peace. And because that was the rallying call from the Pope during that, meeting and that spiritual retreat. And what has happened since then? Not so much. And of course, the St. Gidio from the Vatican, they were supposed to be the sponsors or of this mediation process. They're supposed to even help with the funding, because a lot of these things that implementation of very important aspects of even the peace agreement sometimes have been stalled because of issues that has to do with the lack of financing and funding and all that. But that aside, that was very key. And it was very symbolic what Pope did in 2019. And to know that he has to bring his very sick self to South Sudan, because nothing has changed, even after those prayers, even after that spiritual retreat, even after that conversation they had. And Pope, despite of his very fragile health, has to bring himself all the way to South Sudan. And to top it off, he's not just coming by himself. He is coming with the Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the Anglican Church, the Church of England, but also the head of the Anglican Church across the world. So he's bringing together with that, and also a moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland, so the Reformed tradition. So they're coming 3 very key spiritual leaders whose perhaps presence and will be extremely symbolic. But if Pope Francis kissed their feet, which was astounding, the world was shocked, because even at that time, I mean, it's just the other day, a couple of, years ago, maybe 3 or so, 2019, 2021, yeah, about 3 years ago. Yes, I'm counting my fingers, can you imagine? But 3 years ago, the Pope was still old. And you could see how he was struggling to get to their feet. But he did it, and he prayed for them, and he commissioned them. Now go back to South Sudan and try and create peace, and show good leadership, and show good governance, and put the people of South Sudan first, and care enough about your country, and realize that your country is bigger than your ambitions. Your country is bigger, and the people of South Sudan is bigger than what you think you're getting from this whole deal, from the ego that we've been seeing being displaced by the leadership of South Sudan, the lack of concern of what is important. The priorities are always upside down. And are you surprised that South Sudan is the way it is today? When you have people who the only thing they think about is, what am I getting? What are the soldiers allied to me getting? What are the people closer to me getting from this government? A country that is already struggling so much in terms of its financial capabilities, in everything. South Sudan never had a real chance to bring itself together. After getting independence and seceding from Sudan, and they got their independence in 2011. Then 2 years down the line, the country broke into a civil war. And even though things are tentatively a bit calm, but there's not that environment that would even attract investors to go to South Sudan, because of these continued communal infightings and conflicts that go on, and the general sense of insecurity in South Sudan, because key factors that were contained in the revitalized peace agreement of 2018, important articles in that agreement, have not been implemented yet. So that has kept this country at a limbo where it has been very hard to move forward. So I think they've just been going in rounds. They seem as though they're making progress. And a couple of maybe 3-4 months ago, I was excited to see they look like there's some promise, like they're moving forward. But all they do is just go in circles. So Pope kissed their feet. Look at that, very old man going down his knees and just trying to beseech you, trying to talk you into finding peace in your own country. Pope is very comfortable and safe there in Rome. But you can see he really does have his heart at the right place. When you look at how he even addresses issues across the world, he doesn't keep quiet. He will speak on it. He's spoken about what is happening in Ukraine. He's been speaking about atrocities and human rights abuses that have been happening across the world. And he has been particularly been concerned with the situation in South Sudan. So this time he is bringing himself. All right, he is bringing himself, despite of his very poor health. Like I said there, he's having problems with his knees. So he walks with a stick a lot of times, with a cane and a wheelchair in the recent weeks he has been seen. And despite of his bad health, Pope is still choosing to come to South Sudan. So you can see how this important is for him. And he's not just coming by himself, he's bringing the Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the Anglican Church, and also the moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland, who are also known as the Reformed Traditions. So this is important, and this is meant to happen, The trip, of course, is going to South Sudan, and also he's going to the Democratic Republic of Congo, another epicenter of conflict that we've been seeing, unfolding. It's not the first time. This is something that has continued for decades, but there has been a renewed conflict in northern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So the trips will be between the 2nd of July to the 7th, and we know that South Sudan will be celebrating its 11th anniversary in July. Yes, its 11th anniversary in July, because that's when it got its independence. So it will be 11 years this year come July, and I don't know what they have to show for it. The leaders and the leadership of South Sudan should be ashamed of themselves, I mean, what is your excuse? Because the issues we hear them wrangling about has really nothing to do with the well-being of the people of South Sudan. Nothing. It has nothing to do with what is best for our people. What can we change the lives of our people? We have millions of our people in refugee camps, in the IDPs inside South Sudan itself, in Kenya, in Uganda, in other countries. How can we make it better? Because I see every now and then the government speaking, and they're asking the officials in these states to try and make it, what do you call it? There's a word they like using, to try and make it appealing for IDPs to go back to their homes. How do you expect them to go back to their homes while even their security is not guaranteed? The women there get raped, and the children. And the killings and the communal conflicts that is always on the rise. How can you entice them to go back to what looks like a death trap? Come on now, we have to get serious. So the Pope is coming. I don't know if his visit will make any difference. I don't know if that is why the leaders of South Sudan have been looking as if they really are working towards, doing something and making progress, so that when the Pope shows up, then, they can say, you know what, since you kissed our feet in the Vatican in 2019, 3 years ago, this is what we've been able to achieve. Remember, the revitalized peace agreement happened in 2018, and since then it has been very slow in terms of how it has, the articles have been implemented and the content thereof. So I hope this visit will make a difference, especially to the worrying and the tensions that have existed in the recent months. So I hope that maybe this will help, and maybe with the influence of the Archbishop of Canterbury and this other spiritual leader, hopefully they can speak some sense into the leadership of South Sudan, and maybe, just maybe, we can see some progress made. So, okay, fine. I've said the Pope is coming to South Sudan and also to the DRC. And all right, I've been bringing you up to date with what is happening in the DRC, and not so much news, but I know that like I said there earlier, the Rwandan President Paul Kagame Rwanda has been accused extensively to be involved and to be in the heart of this conflict. And, people would wonder why, what is Rwanda looking for, in the DRC, and what is the connection between the M23, who the Democratic Republic of Congo is accusing of. The M23 is a rebel group. And remember, there has been some mediation going on where the government, the DRC, and the over 120 rebel groups that exist within the Democratic Republic of Congo have been having some talks, some peace talks. But M23 was not invited on the table because they had already been designated as a terrorist group. And so the DRC said it does not negotiate with the terrorists. But the rest also just commit just as heinous acts. But there's some history behind that. So I'll just bring you up to date in a short. But the latest, in case you're just joining us, is that Rwandan President Paul Kagame held a phone conversation with his Democratic Republic of Congo counterpart, Felix Tshisekedi, along with the African Union chairperson, Macky Sall, who's also the president of Senegal. And of course, as I said, Kinshasa government has accused Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebels in renewed fighting in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Charles Murunga, thank you so much. I see you're tuned in, and the rest of you can let me know where you're watching us from this afternoon. But anyway, so last week, the DR suspended flights. The Democratic Republic of Congo suspended flights to Rwanda and summoned Kigali's ambassador over the matter. And as you speak right now, yesterday I was telling you that the M23 had really advanced very close to a very key town, but now they have withdrawn and they have pulled back. Okay, so they have withdrawn and they're saying they're doing this for the interest of they want to make peace. They want to make peace. That is what their spokesperson says. So the rebels had advanced to about 20 kilometers from the provincial capital Goma, which is a very key city there. So they withdrew themselves, and they're saying they don't want to keep advancing because they're looking for peace in order to make peace. And they were told President Tshisekedi is terming you as terrorist, and they say they really don't care, and it really makes no difference to them. So in case you're wondering, what is it? Why M23? What are they fighting for? All these rebels. And I was shocked to learn that a lot of these rebels and these activities has everything to do with I won't say Rwanda as a country, but they've all come from Rwanda. And that's why I keep telling you, as much as this conflicts happening within across the continent of Africa and these countries, and sometimes you feel, that is just happening in South Sudan. What does that have to do with me? Or that is just happening in the DRC. What does that have to do with me? I mean, I'm not affected and all that. But let me tell you, when one country is in trouble, we get to share in that. So what was the M23 fighting for? We know that the M23 and its predecessor groups have claimed to defend the Tutsi interest, particularly against the ethnic Hutu militias like the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, FDLR. And FDLR was founded by Hutus who fled Rwanda after participating in the 1994 genocide where more than 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus died. And so what did Rwanda do to Congo, in case you're wondering, because, Congo is accusing Rwanda so much. So the Rwandan genocide caused a kind of a domino effect, okay, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which then was known as Zaire, and Hutu refugees formed armed groups within the borders of the DRC. So the refugees who had run away, or even the fighters who had participated in the killings, in the genocide in Rwanda in 1994, they ran away to the Democratic of Congo. And once they got to Congo, they regrouped. They brought the fighting from Rwanda and they regrouped. So other groups formed a militia and, protecting Tutsis' rights, and other groups formed a militia fighting for the Hutus, okay? So that was the genesis of this conflict that we've seen play out in so many years now. And the M23 was formed in 2012. And the M23 was the newest in a series of ethnic Tutsi-led insurgencies to rise up against Congolese forces. So the M23's name refers to the March 23rd date of a 2009 accord that ended a previous Tutsi-led revolt in the eastern Congo. The M23 accused the authorities of not living up to the promises. So they signed, after years of fighting, they signed an agreement with the government of Congo over, perhaps their status and how they were going to cooperate. They came to an agreement, so they signed that, and this agreement was signed on March 23rd. Okay, so that's why they're known as the M23, and this was done in 2009. But since then, they accused the Congolese government of not living up to the agreement that they signed. And so you wonder, why are you claiming, why are you even claiming anything from the Democratic Republic of Congo? You are from Rwanda. The person who owes you is Rwanda, but apparently they had an agreement signed by the government of Congo, and the M23 accused the authorities of not living up to the promises to fully integrate Congolese Tutsis into the army and government. So they wanted to be included inside of the Congo's army and government, not Rwanda, where they come from. Do you understand the complexity of this problem that now we have to deal with as the East African Community Bloc? And now the M23 and its predecessor groups have claimed to defend Tutsis' interests, as I have said there earlier, particularly against ethnic Hutu militias like the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, FDLR. And the FDLR was founded by Hutus who fled Rwanda after participating in the 1994 genocide, where more than 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus died. I think I'm repeating that, but it's important to underscore that was the beginning of that. And the M23 fighters seized vast swaths of the eastern Congo countryside in 2012. They not only went there for refuge, but they also took over a huge chunk of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Remember, these are Rwandese. They went there and they took over. All right, a huge chunk of the eastern Congo countryside in 2012, routing under equipped army soldiers. In November, the group briefly captured Goma, a city of 1 million people. That led to an overhaul of the Congolese army that was on that. Can you imagine? Like Somalia, say Al-Shabaab or some group from Somalia enters Kenya and takes over northeastern country, and the Kenya Defense Forces abandons that place for the soldiers from outside Kenya. Crazy, right? But that is what happened, okay? And so the Congolese army and the deployment of Special Forces Intervention Brigade of the United Nations peacekeepers. Now, that is when the United Nations peacekeepers had to come in and changing the tide of the war. By the late 2013, the Congolese and the United Nations forces had chased the remnants of the group into Rwanda and Uganda, because we know also Uganda has been accused of these hostilities. Remember, that is the same beef that Rwanda has with Uganda. Of course, it has not escalated to this magnitude, but there has been some simmering tensions because Rwanda has been accusing Uganda of hosting some of these rebels, and especially the people who participated in the 1994 genocide. Now you see the genesis of that. So some of them went to Rwanda and some of them came to Uganda. So maybe that's why, every now and then Rwanda accuses Uganda of the same. And that December, Congo's government in 2013, Congo's government and the M23 signed a peace accord. The M23 agreed to transform itself into a political party, and Congo promised amnesty for most fighters as part of a disarmament and demobilization process. So you come into my country, I offer you refuge, you regroup yourself, and you become this group that is terrorizing my people. On top of that, now you are you act like you have full rights being as a Democratic Republic of Congo, citizen, and of course they agree that it should transform itself into a political party. How does such a group that is just a political party based on what? killings and murders and beheadings and rapings, because that is what they have been doing, this M23 and other militant groups in the DRC. So anyway, the agreement was for them to transform themselves into a political party, and Congo promised amnesty for most fighters as part of disarmament and demobilization process. And so why is the M23 fighting again? In case you're just joining us, let me just catch you up. Of course, the discontent has been building among the M23's ranks. The group has complained that the Congolese authorities have been slow to grant amnesties and propose economic opportunities in Congo to its fighters stuck in Uganda and Rwanda. So since we can't go and bother Uganda because the Uganda's People Defense Forces are really deadly on that side, and we can't go and bother Rwanda because we know Kagame don't play. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that you don't have peace, so that if it means you have to go speak to this government on our behalf, then that is what you're going to do. So that is the precarious situation that the Democratic Republic of Congo finds itself in. So it's saying that it has to make sure that its people, its soldiers who are stuck in Uganda and Rwanda are brought back. And on top of that, Congo has to guarantee these fighters some economic opportunities and their well-being, and also provide them with amnesty. Forget the atrocities that they have been being involved in those areas in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And of course, the groups of the M23 fighters have staged small-scale attacks inside Congo over the past several years. And the M23 says its current military activities are defensive in nature, following attacks by the FDLR. In case you're wondering, these are the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, and guess where they're stationed? Say it with me: the Democratic Republic of Congo. So Congo literally is fighting a war, finds itself in a conflict that does not even emanate from Congo itself, from the Democratic Republic of Congo itself. This is all Rwanda. So we have another Democratic Forces of the Liberation of Rwanda, but based where in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which says it is collaborating. So now the M23 is accusing this other militia group of collaborating with the Congolese army. Remember, the army has denied working with the FDLR. And of course, the M23 spokesperson, William Goma, said on Thursday last week that the group was satisfied with its current territorial position, but that it could try to seize additional territory, including Goma, if that were necessary for their defense. So in case you're wondering, just very quick history, because my time is also running out on the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda. Let me just catch you up. This is an armed rebel group active in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. It has survived by preying on the Congolese population. Remember, it is defending what? It wants to liberate who? Rwanda. But it has been preying on the Congolese population in the DRC. It is an ethnic Hutu group. So this is an ethnic Hutu group, the FDLR. The M23 is a Tutsi. Okay. Are you understanding? It's a lot. Okay. And they are opposed to the ethnic Tutsi influence, where I think in parts of the DR when they went there as refugees, but also in Rwanda. And then you're wondering, why are they fighting inside the Democratic Republic of Congo? So the FDLR is one of the last factions of the Rwandan rebels active in the Congo, and it was founded through an amalgamation of other groups of Rwandan refugees in September 2000. All right, Rwandan refugees, including the former Army for the Liberation of Rwanda under the leadership of Paul Rwaraka Bije. It was active during the later phases of the Second Congo War and the subsequent insurgents in Kivu. So, of course, the FDLR counts among its members the regional members of the Interahamwe that led to the 1994 Rwandan genocide. So, the M23, okay, now this makes a lot of sense. So the FDLR counts among its members the regional members of Interahamwe, who led the 1994 genocide, and they are defending the Hutu group, okay? So they are accusing, all right, they are accusing the the M23 is fighting the Democratic Republic of Congo forces because they're accusing the DRC of working together with the FDLA. Remember, they are supporting supporting and fighting for the Hutu rights, and M23 the Tutsis. So the reason why M23 is fighting and attacking the DR is they feel that the Democratic Republic of Congo is working now in cahoots with this militia group, FDLR, who also have been allowed to go to the mediation table to fight them. So the army, they're accusing the army of the Democratic Republic of Congo of joining hands with the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda to fight the M23. And now the M23 apparently is being supported by Rwanda. Okay, it's a lot, but I hope you can follow this. So it is a lot going on, and to see how the DR is really suffering for nothing that really has nothing really to do with the Democratic Republic of Congo. These are people who ran from Rwanda after the genocide, and now they're there causing a lot of trouble. And so that's why Rwanda is being accused of supporting M23, who are fighting for the rights of the Tutsis, and FDLR, who are the M23 are accusing of being supported by the Democratic Republic of Congo, forces. So that is where now we're having a tug of war that has led us to where we are today. And I will not get so much into that, but are Congo's neighbors involved? Of course, Congo's eastern neighbors, particularly Rwanda and Uganda, have a long history of military intervention inside Congo. The two countries invaded in 1996 and again in 1998, claiming they were defending themselves against local militia groups. And I think during this intervention, we saw that the DRC took Uganda to the International Criminal Court of Justice. Remember that ruling that was made about maybe 2 months ago? Because while they were there, while Uganda was there trying to fight this militia and whatnot, apparently it also looted its mineral resources and other things. So the Democratic Republic of Congo was seeking for some reparation, which the court ruled in its favor. And I don't know if even Uganda will honor that. But though the latter of those wars ended with a peace treaty in 2003, Congo's government, the United Nations investigators and independent experts have in the years since accused Rwanda and Uganda of supporting militias inside Congo, including M23. Okay? All right? Because after the government was fighting this militia, M23, others ran into Rwanda, others ran into Uganda. And remember why they are fighting the DRC government is they're asking that the DRC allows their fighters to come back and also promise to give them, job securities and to offer them amnesty. All right, so that they can come from Uganda and from Rwanda. You wonder why? They're Rwandese. They could just go seek for amnesty in Rwanda, but as it is, that's not the case. So they say the support has been aimed at maintaining geopolitical influence and profiting from extraction of areas' mineral riches. Of course, that is the core. The mineral resources. That is the core of this matter. Both countries have repeatedly denied those charges, that is Uganda and Rwanda. And Rwandan President Paul Kagame suggested in February that the Rwandan forces might need to intervene in eastern Congo because of the threat from Hutu militiamen. Okay? And on Wednesday, Congo accused Rwanda, and when they say Hutu militiamen, these are the FDLR, who the Rwandan or the M23 is accusing of being supported by the Democratic Republic of Congo, government. And on Wednesday, Congo accused Rwanda of backing the M23's latest offensive, citing the rebels' heavy firepower as evidence of outside support. Rwanda denied this, calling the fighting an intra-Congolese conflict. Rwanda, this is not even an intra-Congolese conflict. This is a Rwandese proxy war being fought in the soil of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And now Congo cannot know peace because they're accusing Rwanda. And of course, Rwanda has denied this. But these are Rwandese fighting inside the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the genesis of them being there was the 1994 Rwandan genocide. After fleeing from Rwanda, they went there and they formed this militia, others supporting the Hutus, others supporting the Tutsis, and now we see what a proxy war. Sometimes you think proxy wars come from outside Africa, but this is just right here, these neighbors. And as I said, if it's not looked into, of course, now the African Union has seems to be, raising concern over the issues. But I think mediation, process should already start so that they're able to speak. The Rwandan government and Paul Kagame and the Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi, I think, met today. So they're having talks. So hopefully this will quell some of this unnecessary tension. James Vittorio saying there are ethnic Tutsi who are Congolese by nationalities. Yes, they do. They have a name. I'm forgetting their name. I agree. I'm forgetting their name. But now they've leaned into the refugees that went there, during after the 1994, genocide. I'm forgetting the name. You're right on that, but I'm forgetting the names of this local DR, tribe that also, are Tutsis, and they do have a name. I'm forgetting their name. I don't know if I can find it. You're right on that. But they are not such a huge population. Yes, Banyamalenga, that is true. And so, but initially they really were not a problem. It is the genocide. It is the people who ran away from the genocide and went hiding into, until then there were no issues even in with the Banyamalenga and the government. So these are dissidents from, Rwanda who are bringing this chaos in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So that is that. All right, thank you so much. That's too much information for one afternoon. We will come here tomorrow and we will continue with some of these stories. As I said, they are developing stories that we shall continue talking about, and others which are happening across the continent of Africa. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.